Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's been a really long time. My last video was my August check-in and then life got really busy and I didn't have time to do any videos after that. So for today's video, I thought I would start with where I've been, what I've been up to. So I'll also catch you up a bit on what happened in September, October and November. So it's kind of a check-in on all those 3 months. I'm feeling quite intimidated because it's been 3 whole months since I filmed a single video, but I'm really excited to talk about what has been happening in the last 3 months and update you on where my headspace has been. So I'm sorry if this video is slightly awkward and stilted because that's how I'm feeling right now as I am trying to get back into filming videos, and I'm trying not to be too intimidated by the thought of editing again because that's always the hardest part of making these videos. So yeah, let's get started. Firstly, I want to say I'm sorry that I've been gone for so long, especially if you were looking forward to my videos to sort of signpost the end of the months. I really wish I could have filmed the video, but I was feeling pretty overwhelmed by everything that was happening. And also the thought of having to edit my videos after. I wasn't sure if I had the time to edit, so even if I were to film them, I might not have been able to edit them and publish them in time. So here I am. Hopefully I'll be able to reflect on my last 3 months adequately and share what's been going on. Let's just start with it. Firstly, I think the past 3 months felt longer than just 3 months. I see that as a good thing because the longer time feels, it means that you've had a lot of new experiences, and with new experiences there's a lot of lessons to be learned, a lot of growth. So I see that as a good thing. If anything, the monotony of the few months before that made time pass a lot faster, which is not a good thing for me because it feels like I'm just barreling towards the end without any sort of meaningful experiences. So I guess it's a good sign that it felt a lot longer than 3 months. And I also feel quite sad that the year is ending because I feel like I need more than just the 1 month I have left to process everything that's happened in 2025. But that is usually how it is. I feel like January to March is always a bit slower, and then April to August is just one long endless block of time, and then October, November, December goes by really quickly. So that's also something I want to think about for the new year, how to make the middle of the year feel more meaningful and less like a drag, because that's how most middle of the years feel to me ever since I graduated from school. So, okay, let's start with what happened in September. So, generally in September, the dominant event that I was preparing for was my friend's wedding. So, I was a bridesmaid for my friend's wedding, and her wedding was going to be at the very beginning of October, but preparations already started in September. So there was a bridesmaids party that we organized, and then September in general was also a very social month for me. So I had a lot of social events and gatherings to go to. I had karaoke with friends, I had dinners, and then I also fell sick in the month of September, which was scary because I fell sick 4 days before my friend's wedding. So I had to take MC from work, and I remember feeling so ill, like more ill than I had felt in a really long time. Falling sick has also been a common theme this year, which is very strange for me because I'm hardly sick. I hardly fall sick. In fact, the last few years, I feel like maybe I fall sick once or twice a year, like full with fever, not just a little bit of sore throat or runny nose here and there, but straight up like fever, bed bound for a day kind of sickness. And in fact, I have a bit of a cold again. I don't know what is up. I woke up this week, like on Monday, with something like a sore throat, and then I was sneezing, and then it became runny nose, and I'm still sort of fighting something. That's why my voice sounds a bit nasally, and I have phlegm and everything, and that's the 5th time this year. So something is up. I'm not sure what it is, and it's really annoying. But anyway, yeah. So I was sick. I was sick for the 4th time in September. I had fever. So I was really paranoid because my friend's wedding was on that Saturday and this was Wednesday. So I just stayed in. I ate porridge the whole day. I took like 2 naps throughout the day. I wasn't really doing anything. I was really focused on just trying not to get sicker. And thankfully by the Saturday, I was feeling okay. Like I wasn't feeling sickly, but maybe my voice was still a bit nasally. But the wedding went well. It was a really fun time. That was my first time being a bridesmaid. And it was so cool to see the behind the scenes of a wedding. And also it's my childhood friend, so that was also extra special. So that was my September, a very busy and full month. And the following week after my friend's wedding, so my friend's wedding was on the Saturday in the first week of October. The following week I had my company retreat. So my company retreat was a week long, slightly over a week long, and we went to Japan, the same area that we went to last year. So that took up the first half of my October. And then when I came back from my company retreat, I had about 1 week of work, and then I left for my own personal trip. So October was just a lot of traveling for me. It felt like a lot of traveling because even though I was back in Singapore for about a week, I was preparing to go on my personal trip. I was doing laundry, I was packing, I was wrapping up loose ends at work. And then the final week of October, I left for Korea. I went to Seoul, and I was in Seoul for a week, and then we went to Japan for the first week of November, so consecutively. So yes, I went to Japan twice in the span of a month, but that's just how the timing worked out. It would have been nice to just extend my trip from after my company retreat, but it was too long between then and my next trip, so it was good for me to come back to Singapore anyway so that I can repack my bag, put down all my stuff, and then just leave again. So that was my October and the first week of November. I feel like talking about my holiday will require its own video, but in summary, what I can say is that it kind of confirmed my theory that I need more than a long weekend to recover. I don't know if you remember from my past check-ins, but I was pretty burnt out from the year. Just stuff that happened in general, and also stuff I needed to get done. This year has not been very chill. It's been quite overwhelming, and I was trying so hard throughout the year to find breaks for myself, to take a long weekend or to find time to rest, but it never felt enough. It never felt like I was really rested. So I had a thought that maybe what I really need is a longer break from work, so something like a 2-week trip. And that would give me enough space and time away from my everyday routines to feel rejuvenated again. And I confirmed that theory because after my trip, after coming back from my holiday, I felt refreshed again. I felt like my mind was clearer. Even though it was only 2 weeks, it felt a lot longer. I had so many new experiences every single day. I had so much fun. I went USJ again, but this time I had the express pass, so I felt like I could actually appreciate the park and the atmosphere of the park because I wasn't queuing most of the time. And I also went thrifting for the first time. So thrifting was something that I was introduced to during my company retreat. My boss took us thrifting at places like Hardorf, 2nd Street, and I enjoyed it so much, surprisingly, that I added it to my itinerary for my own personal trip. And that was a new experience and a new activity for me, so I really enjoyed that. And it was a really nice trip. I felt like I could disconnect from everything that was happening here and just enjoy my holiday and really put myself in a different headspace. So I miss it a lot. I had a real bad case of post-vacation blues after I came back, but I think now it's been almost 3 weeks since I came back, and I feel more like I'm in the routine of my everyday. But I also am planning for my future trips next year because I'm just so inspired by my last trip. And that was most of my October. That was what happened in my October. So October felt like a really long month with my company retreat, with my trip. So much happened, and it was a really great month. And then November, so most of November I've been back in Singapore since the 10th of November. So I've been back for the last 3 weeks, and honestly it's just been, well, firstly I was fighting the post-vacation blues because I missed my holiday so much, and coming back and settling into my own routines felt quite difficult. But I think after 3 weeks I feel a lot more settled. I have started a few I have restarted a few old routines that I want to talk about, and I think that's been helping a lot. And also generally, even though I have post-vacation blues, I think just this time in general, this end of year period, it makes me feel very excited. I love the end of the year period. I don't know what it is about the end of the year. Well, I know what it is. It's just that feeling of a new phase starting again, like a new era of your life starting, and this chapter coming to an end. Even though it's bittersweet, I always anticipate a new beginning. So generally the end of the year is the happiest time of the year for me. So even though I'm sad about the end of my holidays, I love this period of planning new goals, trying to start new habits, trying to prepare to be a new version of yourself for the new year. Yeah, so that's what I've been doing in the past 3 weeks. I've been trying to revisit my goals, reflecting on how they've gone in the last year, planning for the new year, and I'll continue to do that into December. So yeah, I'm not sure how brief I was, but that is how the last 3 months of my month went. It was event after event after event, hence why I've been so busy and I haven't had time to do a lot of other things really, not just YouTube, but a lot of my other goals just went by the wayside. And I guess now I'll talk about those goals and what I have been able to pick up since I got back. And I think at this point I wouldn't talk too much about them because I've been talking about them all year. The sleeping and waking early, I think what contributed to my current sickness is not having enough sleep this past week. So the effect was quite immediate because by Thursday I was already sniffling and sneezing, and I think that was because my immunity was lower because I hadn't gotten enough sleep. So more than sleeping and waking at a certain time, I think most importantly is just getting enough sleep in general. So that is the biggest takeaway that I have from my striving towards a certain bedtime and waking up time this year. More important than that is just getting enough sleep. So I shouldn't be too focused on the timing, but rather the number of hours. So that is my takeaway from that. And then my goal of exercising. So this has been a journey this year. I started the year with having yoga and gym, and then I dropped yoga to focus on going to the gym. And then now my update is that I've restarted yoga again because the studio opened very near my office, and it's at this point there's like no excuse for me not to go to yoga anymore because it's so near, and some of my colleagues are also going, so it's become like a social event for us to go to yoga together. And if there's anything that I've learned from my efforts to have a fitness routine or to incorporate fitness into my life, it's that I really need accountability, social accountability. Because going to the gym, for instance, if it's just me, myself, and I trying to bring myself to the gym, it's so difficult, and most times I don't do it. I'd rather stay home, read a book, or watch a movie, or clean my house. I will find any excuse to not bring myself to the gym. But if somebody is waiting for me at the gym, or if I have plans to go to the gym with someone, then it becomes a lot easier because I'm not just accountable to myself, I'm accountable to the person who is going with me. So I ended up going to the gym only once a week when I go with my friend, and I don't really go the rest of the week. Granted, the last 3 months were very busy, so I didn't even have the time to go beyond just once a week. But now that things have been settling down, I've actually been going to yoga almost twice a week on my work from office days because I bought a package. I bought this trial package where I can go for unlimited classes for 3 weeks. So that's what I've been doing for the past, I think, two and a half weeks. And it just felt so, it's like coming back to an old hobby. I didn't realize how much I missed yoga when I stopped going for yoga at the studio near my house. But then now going to the one near work, it's become, like I said, a social activity with friends, and it doesn't really feel like an extra effort to do it. I just feel very grateful that the studio opened so near my workplace and that I have people to go with. So this current routine feels right to me. Like it feels a bit more effortless. Something that I've been struggling with my fitness routine is how to make it more effortless because it feels so effortful every time to get myself ready for the gym, to go to the gym, to do my thing, and then come back. It always felt like extra effort, especially if I'm doing it alone. So having yoga once a week with my colleagues and gym once a week with my friend, it almost feels easier to me. So I'm really pleased with this development in my life. And doing yoga feels like coming home to something familiar and beneficial for my body. I guess I've come full circle and returned back to the activity that got me into exercising at all, and that is yoga. Yeah, so I feel like I went one big round just to come back to where I started, which is also the same with my next goal. Not so much goal, it wasn't a goal that I've been talking about, but I restarted Korean lessons again. Back in April, I mentioned that I was going to stop my Korean lessons. So I was taking Korean lessons at a school. I've been going to that school for 2 years. I started from level 1 all the way until I was considered pre-advanced. I stopped for many reasons. Firstly, I thought I was getting too busy. I was doing YouTube a lot more actively back in April. I wanted to start going to the gym. And so I felt like I wanted to take a break from my Korean classes because I've been doing it for 2 years. And the schedule of my Korean classes was also not ideal because it was on my work from home days. All of that together made me feel like it was a good time to take a break, and I wasn't sure when or if I was going to come back to it. And a couple months, maybe like 3-4 months after that, I did try to restart Korean again. I wanted to do just self-study with my old classmates. So we would just meet up around the same location where our school was and then self-study together. But it's a bit more inconsistent because I was traveling also, and so I didn't study for a whole month. And even with self-study, I feel like it's not very clear my progress was not as clear as when I was doing it in school, but I was still trying. And I think what motivated me to restart Korean seriously was when I was in Korea in October and I met up with my Korean friend, and I realized that I was so self-conscious about speaking it because I had forgotten so much. And just last year around this time, I was speaking to her in Korean. I was just making myself speak Korean and I could speak quite a bit. So the contrast between how I was last year when I was so much more confident and a bit more fluent to now where I couldn't even say a sentence without feeling self-conscious. I felt very embarrassed. It's like, did I even study Korean for 2 years? Where did it all go? So I felt very bad. So I told her the next time I come back to see her, I will be speaking in Korean again. And it's very hard to do that with my current pace, with my current routine of self-studying. So what I did was I started lessons on this platform called Preply. It's like a platform where you can find personal tutors. So it's a one-on-one class. And there are many tutors. There's a range of prices. You can set filters to choose your teacher. Oh, sorry if the angle changed. I had to change my battery. But what was I saying? Yes, so Preply. I've heard of it from a couple of my friends, and my boss actually uses it for his own language classes. So I decided to give it a try, and I found a really good teacher. I've done 2 lessons with her, but I really like it so far. I feel so excited after every class, and I do feel like, especially after my second class, I feel like I'm actually making progress again. And because it's a one-on-one class, you speak a lot more. In school, back when I was doing school, we do speak in class, but because it's a bigger classroom and the focus is always a bit more on learning the grammar, I feel like I didn't really improve my speaking skills. In fact, when I went to Korea last year for my language exchange for 2 weeks, that was more focused on speaking, and that was when I saw exponential improvement. Whereas when I was just studying it in Singapore, it was more on the grammar and the reading, which is also very important because one thing that my teacher told me was that my grammar is actually okay. It's my vocab that needs improvement because I would forget simple words like how to say last week or last month, or like even simple basic nouns like Australia. I would forget those words, but my grammar otherwise is okay. So that was quite embarrassing to hear, but it also gives me a clearer picture of where my level of Korean is at. I think I'll do the Preply lessons every week and study with my old classmates once a week just to practice and revise my grammar before my lessons. Because the lessons are more focused on conversation, but I think I still have to revise the vocab and study more grammar on my own. So yeah, same as yoga, I feel like I've gone this whole round just to come back to the same place, and that is to pick up Korean again. And honestly, I guess I don't regret taking that break from yoga and from Korean because it just reminded me how much these two things were a huge part of my identity almost, and to how I liked spending my time. And taking away those things for a while reminded me of just how much I valued them. Like, I love doing yoga, I love learning Korean. Those were quite key aspects of how I spent my time, and I'm really glad to have them back in my life. And they also fit better in my life and my schedule now than they did before, which was why I had to stop them before. So yeah, those are two things that I have welcomed back into my life with great excitement, and I'm looking forward to seeing what progress I'll make as I continue into the next year. Usually at this point of my check-in, I'll talk a bit about my budget, but it's a bit up in the air right now because I am planning for my budget for 2026 and thinking about my new goals and everything. So that's just to say that I won't talk about it here because it might be in a future video where I'll talk about it more in depth. Planning for a new budget for the year, I actually look forward to it. I really love refreshing my budget, thinking about new goals. I feel like the end of the year is always a time when I reflect on how things have gone in the last year. At least with my finances, I don't really get very emotional about money. I find that it's almost like doing maths. It's just numbers to me, and I've come to a point where I can get quite detached from it. I become very analytical when it comes to money, and that is a nice change compared to how emotional I can get when it comes to my other goals. But anyway, I will talk about it more in depth in a future video, I think, so I won't talk about it now. But I'm looking forward to thinking more deeply about my 2026 money goals and also my budget. So now I want to talk about my favorites from the last 3 months. It will be a very long list because it's 3 months worth of favorites that I haven't got the chance to tell you about. I have sorted them by category so it's not so overwhelming. But the first category I want to talk about is something, I just labeled it art events. And they consist of like plays and concerts. One thing that I really want to get back into is going out, like physically going to a performance or going for an event rather than being at home and watching a movie or reading a book on my own. Those are just as valuable to me. I love my time at home. I love not having to go out and still being able to enjoy a film or a book. But I think the joy of going out to watch something, and especially if you're watching it with friends, that's also like you're getting the experience and also the socializing. It's always nice, I feel. The past 3 months I've gone to quite a lot, like more than I've gone to the past year. So that has also added to my busyness, but it's also been really refreshing. And I think with the closure of Projector, which is an independent cinema, it wasn't like I was going there every month, but they were my default cinema that I would check for new movies. And I guess in the months leading up to their closure, there weren't a lot of movies that I was keen on watching, and so I didn't actually go to Projector, but I just thought they would be around for longer, so I kind of took their presence for granted, and now I don't really know where to go to find new movies that are interesting and a bit different from what they show in regular cinema, because I don't go to regular cinemas because most times those films will end up on Netflix or Disney Plus anyway, so I tend to just watch them online once they're out on those platforms instead. So yeah, I'm trying to go for more art events that cannot be put online, so it's either I catch them live in person or I don't catch them at all. So it started really with a play that I watched back in September called Hotel. It's by Wild Rice, which is in Funan. I am quite a fan of Wild Rice, and I am especially a fan of anything written by Alfian Sa'ad. And I think I remember thinking after I watched Hotel that I want to talk about it in my favorites. And I think if I had talked about it back in September, I would have been more excited, more effusive, because the experience was so fresh. But at last I'm talking about it 3 months later, but still I feel like it is the best play or local work of art that I have ever watched or witnessed. I think I stand by that. I think this year is the last year of its running, because it actually came out in 2015 and it's been running every few years, and this year might be the last year that it's showing, because at the end of the play, I think the director mentioned that this is the last time it's gonna be shown. So that's quite sad, but I have the physical copy of the play. Like I bought the physical book because I needed to hold on to a piece of it. Even if I can't watch the play, I can read the script. And what else can I say about it? It is a super long play. It was a full day. It started from 2 o'clock, and then there's a long intermission for dinner, and then it ended about 9 or 10. So it's really a full day play, but it was so immersive that honestly the time just flew by. And I recommended it to a friend who managed to catch it on one of the final days of its showing, and she also really loved it. So I'm sorry if you really want to watch it and you can't anymore because it's not showing, but I hope that they'll bring it back somehow. My friend and I wanted to watch it back in 2023, but the tickets were completely sold out by then, and we were just eagerly anticipating for it to come back. And when it finally came back this year, we booked the tickets maybe 3 months in advance or something. We couldn't even wait for the culture pass, the $100 culture pass credits, because we knew that by the time we waited for the culture pass, the tickets would have been sold out. So we just paid full price for it, and it was worth every single penny. I haven't been so moved in a really long time, and I really loved it. So if it ever comes back, or if you ever get your hands on the script, or if you manage to come across a recording of it, it's really an amazing piece of work. I was completely mind blown. I'm so glad that I got to see it. So that experience has reignited a passion in me to just catch more live shows. Yeah, maybe that's the term, not just art events, but live art events. Yeah, so that was Hotel by Wild Rice. And then there was another event that I went to during the Singapore Writers Festival back in November. Yeah, so this one was this month. I watched a couple more things between September and November, but they didn't end up on this list. So these are my top 3 favorites. I have 3. So the second one is called The Shadow of Things to Come, and it's a ticketed event under the Singapore Writers Festival. It was hosted by Hafiz Abdul Rahman, and the concept is it's almost like a guided tour. He takes you on a tour of the Arts Belt, which is like the Arts House, the Victoria Concert Hall, Padang, Asian Civilizations Museum, and the National Gallery. I think just that area in City Hall. I think it's called the Arts Belt. And he shares a personal ghost story that his family or friends have experienced personally at that location. So he didn't have any personal ghost stories himself, and likewise, I love ghost stories, but thankfully I have had no encounters by myself. But yeah, he takes you through the Arts Belt and shares ghost stories, and it was held in the evening. It was held at night, and it was just a great experience. It was a very small group, maybe no more than 20 people, and to hear all these ghost stories at these familiar places, it was just a great experience. And there's something about being there in person also, listening to these stories live, being taken on this walk. I think it's just, things have become so accessible and so easy to consume online that somehow these very common experiences of just going to an event in person have become quite novel, which is kind of sad, but also it's given me a chance to revisit these old mediums again and see them with fresh eyes and a renewed appreciation. That probably adds to the excitement. And then after the event, I hung out with my friends, and then we talked about the walk, and I also talked about other things. So the whole experience is not just the thing that we went to, but also the socializing after, the talking, the friendship, as cheesy as that sounds. And the last thing that I really enjoyed this month was the Avatar concert, the 20th anniversary orchestra. I was so excited for this because I love Avatar. I've grown up with it since I was in primary school, and I haven't rewatched the first series since, I can't remember, maybe I was in uni when I rewatched it. It's been a really long while. I haven't rewatched it in my adulthood, and I also haven't even seen the live action show that came out recently. Experiencing the series again in the orchestra was so moving. I cried so much. I cried at really stupid moments, like when the opening music started and it was a montage of the show, I was already crying, and let alone like the Appa's lost days and Iroh's scenes. I was just so emotional at those scenes. So it was a great experience. A lot of the people who came, from what I observed, were also adults. So I guess they grew up with the show. Watching Avatar has always been a very private activity for me. Like watching it on TV, discussing it with my friends. I've never attended an event where it's a whole bunch of other fans experiencing it together with you, and that was a really nice experience. You know, we all laughed at the same moments, we gasped at the same moments, and that felt really special. Sorry, like I'm just gushing at all the three things that I watched because they were just all so moving, and I had such a good time at these live events that it just makes me want to go for more, even if they don't make my favorites list, even if they don't end up being the best works I've ever seen. I think just the experience of going to these shows has a different kind of flavor, an experience that is very valuable, and I should aim to go for more of these things in the coming year. So yeah, those are the three shows that I really loved. And the next category I want to talk about is books. So I didn't read as many books as I would like. In fact, I'm still trying to get through Hunger Games now. For a moment, I was almost tempted to just start rewatching Avatar: The Last Airbender because I was just so inspired by the orchestra performance. But I told myself that I must at least finish the Hunger Games first. I must finish because I was on this journey to re-experience the whole Hunger Games trilogy and the new books. So I need to at least get through that, and then afterwards maybe I can revisit Avatar next year. So I'm still making my way through Mockingjay. I brought it to my trips, but sadly I didn't have time to finish the book. But I did finish Catching Fire before I went on my trip. And then I also finished Strange Houses by Uketsu. I mentioned Strange Pictures the last time in my August check-in, and I really liked that. And I finally got Strange Houses. My loan for Strange Houses took over a month to come to me. So the moment I got the book, I finished it in a couple days, and I really enjoyed it. The thing is, I've already watched the movie and I know what happens in the book because my friend told me, but it was still nice to experience it on my own. So I really enjoyed Strange Houses. If you like Strange Pictures, you would like Strange Houses. And a new book that I read when I was in Japan is this one. It's called A Monk's Guide to a Clean House and Mind. I bought this in Kyoto in the train station. I was just looking at the bookstore and they had a very small section of English books, and I came across this book and I thought, this is so characteristically me that it's a bit of a stereotype, but I bought it anyway, and it's a very simple book. It's almost like The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up in terms of its format and its brevity. So it was very easy to finish, and I read most of it when I was in Japan, and then I finished it when I was in Singapore, and it was very easy to read, very simple. If anything, I bought this more as a souvenir to myself, as sort of a reminder of the philosophies that I want to live by. So after reading this book, I saw the value of bringing in fresh air into the home. I've always had trouble with opening the windows in my house. I know it's good to let fresh air in, to let air circulate, but I'm always afraid of bugs coming in. It's always very hot outside, so I try, but usually I fail to let the air come in to the house when I'm at home. Like right now, all my windows are closed, my door is closed, mostly because I don't want the sound to come in while I'm filming, but also when I'm not doing anything at home, I tend to just close all the windows and the doors just to almost to close myself in, to not let the outside world come into my peaceful space. It's like a mental thing. Of course, my mom, when I'm not at home, she will let the house air, so the house does get aired, but not when I'm at home by myself. So it was reading this book that convinced me to let the fresh air in, because the fresh air rejuvenates your mind. It clears all the stale thoughts in all the stagnant air that's in your mind. You know, clears your breathing, clears your head, prevents you from getting a headache. I always get a headache when I'm at home for long periods of time. So yeah, that's just a small thing, a small but very significant way that this book has changed my life since I got it. So I really enjoyed this book, and it's such a nice souvenir for myself. And as a bookmark, this is my train ticket receipt from when I was there. So those are the 3 books that I've really enjoyed in the last 3 months. So the next category is music. It's quite a short list. It's just The Life of a Showgirl by Taylor Swift. I have been listening to the album non-stop since it came out. With every album, I feel like there's always hits and misses, personal hits and misses. Like you might really love this song, and you might not really like this other song, but generally as an album, I've been listening to it on loop since it came out. It's a really short album, it's only 40 minutes. It can't even last my entire commute to work, but still I like listening to songs on loop, and I've been really enjoying the album. And my next music favourite is more of a category of music, and that is indie folk music. I've been listening to a lot of Noah Kahan, is that how you pronounce his name? And also Hozier. So it's that genre of music. It's a bit more reflective. I kind of call it village music, but I love the lyrics and the very nostalgic, reflective kind of vibe that are usually in these songs, and I feel like it's very perfect for this season of the year. I think when I was on my company retreat, we went to the countryside, so that is especially even more fitting. And when I came back from my retreat, I was listening to a lot of indie folk music again, just to sort of keep the vibe in my mind. So yeah, I've been really liking indie folk music. Probably will listen to more in the coming month. I'm getting quite out of breath from all the talking I've been doing. But my next category is just stuff from my trips that really made an impact on me and became huge favourites. So the first one is thrifting in Japan. I mentioned it earlier. So I was introduced to it during my company retreat, and then I planned it into my personal trip. I think the experience of thrifting in Japan was really fun because unlike Singapore, the thrifting scene in Japan is very different. I think my experience of thrifting in Singapore is just the Lucky Plaza kind of thrifting, and that is very overwhelming for me. Sensory overload everywhere. I don't even like clothes shopping to begin with, so the thought of having to dig through piles of clothes that are not really organized really stresses me out. So I've tried to thrift once in Singapore and never again. So that was my impression of thrifting, and it was only on my company trip that I saw that it could actually be a fun experience. Once again, a very social experience because I love going there with people and seeing what my friends like to look at, what they're drawn to. So my very first time thrifting during my company retreat, I managed to find this bag. Let me go and get it. My very first thrift shop that we went to during my company retreat, I managed to find this bag. It looks a bit deflated now because there's nothing in it, but it's a vintage Coach bag. And it was the very first thrift store that I went into, and I recognized it because before the trip, I was really into watching vintage Coach restorations on YouTube. It became a really comfort genre for me. And so I recognized the leather immediately, and indeed, it is a vintage Coach bag. And I think it's my age. This probably came out around the time I was born. And I was so excited. This is how it looks like now. I brought it with me on my own personal trip to Japan, and I noticed that the color got a lot darker than when I first found it. So when I first found it, it was a bit lighter, it was a lot drier looking. So the moment I got this bag, I went to order a bunch of tools from Shopee, like leather conditioner, leather cleaner, the horsehair brush, so that I could restore it when I came back. And that was in itself a really fun activity because I was doing the thing that I was watching a lot of other people do online, but I was able to do it for myself. I put my own Mockingjay keychain. So this is one of my favorites from the month. I think it's extra special because I worked on restoring it myself. Granted, it wasn't in that bad of a condition. I got this for about 47 Singapore dollars, and then the tools that I got to restore it in total was about maybe 40 or $50. But I can always use the tools for other bags if I do need it. So it's just been a really fun new hobby to try. So this is my first find. And then the second time I went to Japan, on my personal trip, we went to a whole bunch of thrift stores. And the thing is with thrift stores, you can go to like 10 thrift stores, but you might only find one good treasure. So it's almost like the process, you need to enjoy the process more than you want an outcome from this activity. And thrifting has taught me that, and I actually appreciate the process as well. It's fun to like drive to different thrift stores. So this is the other bag that I found. This was, I think, 55 Singapore dollars, but I looked online and the original price for this bag is about 250 or $300. It's a Furla bag. It looks very similar to this fossil tote bag that I had been eyeing for a while, but I never got around to buying it because it was very expensive. And this is also real leather. The shape is almost the same. And I put a little fake Coach cherry keychain on it. And this has become my work bag. I don't know, it's very my style, I think. And it fits so many things. And with leather, I really appreciate leather bags because the more you use it, the softer it becomes. So it's almost like you can see how well loved and used it is on the bag itself. And that was the category that I looked out for the most when I was thrifting, both times on my company trip and on my personal trip. So yeah, more than just what I get from thrifting, it's also the experience of thrifting that is really fun and has taught me a lot about how to find treasures, how to value things. Yeah. I want to plan another Japan trip just focused on thrifting alone, because it's just such a new experience, and it's just so fun, especially when you have other people to do it with. Yeah, so that is another favorite of mine. And then other favorites when I was on holiday was going to Universal Studios Japan when I was in Osaka. Like I mentioned, I had the express pass, so it was really fun to be able to ride almost all the rides and then also have time to experience the vibe, the atmosphere, the scenery. I probably wouldn't get the express pass, at least the express pass 7 that I got when I went there, because now I know what rides are worth riding, and so maybe next time I'll get like the smaller, the cheaper express pass instead. And then I also went to the Cup Noodle Museum in Osaka. I thought it was gonna be a bit lame. I mean, I really love instant noodles, but I didn't know how I would like an entire museum dedicated to it. But I ended up really, really liking it. I had a lot of fun just designing my own cup noodles and also learning more about the creator of cup noodles, the founder of Nissin Cup Noodles. He was so inspiring and I was quite moved by his story. So that was an unexpectedly meaningful experience, the Cup Noodle Museum. So I highly recommend it if you get the chance to go. We drove there because it's quite far, and at the same time we were also planning to go around to different thrift stores, so it worked out. But if you're gonna take public transport from Osaka, it's quite far away. I think that's the reason why I didn't go to the Cup Noodle Museum the first time round. But I highly recommend it if you find yourself in the area. Or I think there's another Cup Noodle Museum in Yokohama as well, which is nearer to Tokyo. But also, yeah, if you are from Tokyo, you would have to go out to Yokohama to go to the Cup Noodle Museum. But either way, it was really fun. I really loved it. And I'm still making my way through the cup noodles that I made when I was there. And then finally, my last favorite from when I was in Japan was going to an onsen, staying in a ryokan and then going to an onsen. I think the onsen experience is so classically Japanese and such a long part of their tradition and history that if you have the chance to try, I highly recommend it. It's so relaxing to be in a hot bath after the end of a long day. There's nothing like it. I really miss the hot water. I miss the ambience. I miss wearing the yukata. It feels like a treat. And it was a treat. I went to Arima Onsen, which is in Kobe. It's just an hour drive or bus ride from Osaka. And it's not as crowded as, say, Hakone. I've never been to Hakone, but I've heard that it's very expensive and very crowded, even though it's very beautiful. But if you can go further out into places like Arima Onsen, which is nearer to Osaka, it is just as nice and not as crowded. So I'm really glad that I managed to find it. I think I just googled onsen towns near Osaka and that came up, and I put it in my itinerary. But I'm really glad that I went. I highly recommend it. And I'll put the link of the ryokan I stayed in. I stayed in this ryokan called Gekkoen Uketsu Sanso. Don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but it's a really great, it was a really nice ryokan. Managed to get quite a good deal on it because I booked it a bit earlier, but still quite a splurge. So if you have the budget for it, I highly recommend it, just as an experience. And I recommend staying 2 nights so that you can have more time exploring the town and also time in the baths. talking about my trip makes me miss it so much. I guess the only thing to do is to plan for my next trip so that I can have something to look forward to. I've been talking for so long. This is a really rambly check-in. If you stayed to the end, thank you so much for watching. I hope to come back with more videos and hopefully my thoughts will be more organized with the topic. I think this video has been very long because I just wanted to catch you up on everything that's been happening in the last 3 months, where I've gone, what I've been doing. If you've been worried about me, don't worry, I'm okay. And also thank you so much for worrying about me or thinking about me at all. And yeah, I think I shall close this video here. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in my next video. Bye bye.